What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 9 of the Diego Colley Football Show. Got a fun episode today, previewing a great weekend of sports coming up, arguably the best sports weekend of the year. We got a killer NFL slate. We got the Seahawks starting the week off strong on Thursday night tonight. Really excited about that one. Then we got arguably the best college football slate of the entire year. Multiple ranked matchups. We got UW, Ohio State. Going to talk about that game for a while. And I will be at the game. This will be 2 weeks in a row at the Husky game. Going home for my brother's senior night, and then made a last minute change to go to the game. So I can't wait for that. Going to talk about that game a lot. Talk about the other ranked matchups we got. But first, we got to talk about Monday Night Football. Real quick, I think the Lions are back, man. The Lions are back. This is a team that had a rough week one, if we're being honest. And I was wondering, man, were these coordinators that they lost a big part of the success that they had? And in the last few weeks, this has looked like the Lions that we have come to know over the past few years. This was a dominant performance from this Lions offense. It seemed like the Ravens defense had zero answers for these guys. This was like a Ben Johnson called game. They had that beautiful trick play called on 4th and 1 on the goal line where they hit into a Monterey, pitches it to Gibbs. That was beautiful. And they were just humming, dude. And it was both of the running backs again. When both of those running backs are having success, that's when the Lions are the most dangerous. You got David Montgomery going for 12 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 22 carries, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gibbs tacking on 5 receptions, 32 yards in the receiving game. Amon-Ra, 7 for 77, 1 touchdown. J-Mo, 2 for 43. It was just a well-rounded football game. Jared Goff looked like Jared Goff, dude. He was being smart over the middle, completing the intermediate passes. But this game, the main thing I left this game being impressed with, I mean, you look at the Lions gave up 30 points, but the Lions bottled up Lamar Jackson. Like, I haven't seen Lamar Jackson bottled up in a few years. The first thing that's coming into my mind is that Chiefs AFC Championship game a few years ago when they lost in the AFC Championship. They held them, like, I think 10 points it was, I believe. But mainly in the second half, especially, I mean, Lamar was sacked 7 times for 55 yards negative. And their run defense, Derrick Henry, 12 carries, 50 yards, another fumble. Fumble issues for Derrick Henry, just super, super weird to see. This one, I mean, I tacked on a little bit of unluckiness because he's running, the block gets missed, and Hutchinson comes out with a beautiful punch to punch the ball out. But, I mean, a fumble is a fumble, and that's a big-time drive when they're going down to try and tie the game, I believe. They stop them, or they're going to take the lead. I believe they're down 4. And the fumble, the defense hold them to 3, and the Lions go up 7, and that pretty much calls it. But I thought the Lions defense played an outstanding game in the second half. Lamar was frustrated. You could tell every time he took a sack, he'd slam the ball on the ground. And it was just surprising to see him. Usually Lamar is by far and away, like, you can't stop. There's nothing you can do. And he was, no matter what he did, he was running around the backfield, and they just kept making plays. They were making plays. Derrick Henry, horrible game. This is a few weeks in a row. They failed to get him established. And that's frustrating if you're a Ravens fan. Rated as a 43 on PFF. A majority of that comes from that fumble, I assume. But another thing I want to talk about is this Ravens defense. This is a Ravens defense that's given up the most points in the league through 3 games. And you got guys on Ravens Twitter just pissed off, saying that they should never let Mike Macdonald leave the building. Mike Macdonald should have been the successor to John Harbaugh, which is, great to see as a Seahawks fan. They're seeing our defense start to thrive over here, and their defense has really struggled. He was supposed to be a disciple of Mike Macdonald. I believe it was Zach Orr, who's the Ravens defensive coordinator. But it's just weird to see. And this is a Ravens team. When I look at it, I don't know if I ever am going to believe in this team to win a big game and get a big stop when they need to in a big game that matters. Because it feels like time and time again, it's just the electric offense, and they're always in that spot, and the defense can't make the stop, or they can't make a clutch play. And it's got to be a frustrating time because the talent's there. The talent is there. Zay Flowers, a bit of a no-show in this game. You want to get him the ball if you're a Ravens guy. Mark Andrews, big game for him, 6 receptions, 91 yards. Bateman, 5 for 63. But Zay Flowers, 2 receptions, 13 yards on 3 targets. That can't happen. He's a guy you can get the ball to in a short catches, short yardage catch him, give him the ball, let him run with it. And that's just something that has to be established. So a tough loss for the Ravens at home. We were 4.5-point favorites at home. I predicted the Lions would win. I predicted they'd build off of their success in the week before, and they have. And this is a team that looks like one of the best teams in the NFC. On to week 4 now, I believe. Yes, we'll start it off with the Seahawks on Thursday night. And man, this is a big game. This is a big game. There's a weird feeling going into this game because the line is open. The Seahawks were a little bit of underdogs, 1 or 2 point dogs, I believe, going down to Arizona. Arizona coming off just a tough, hard-nosed loss to the San Francisco 49ers. But everyone, their mom, I feel like, is on the Seahawks in this game. There's I believe I saw something that was 95% of the money is on the Seahawks to cover in this game. I feel Arizona fans don't feel optimistic going in this game. It feels like the vibe around the team that's 2-1 right now going into a big division game is very low. It is very low. And this starts with the Arizona offense. And Marvin Harrison Jr., quite frankly, last year, the number 4 overall pick in the draft, has arguably looked like a bust. I mean, not even arguably at all. He can't catch the ball. I'm sure we all saw that big play down the middle of the field where it's just a flat-out drop. You can't get more open than that. And then there's another one going deep down the left side. Kyler throws it to him, and there's no one around him. It's a tough jump and play, but, I mean, that's a catch that a generational prospect is expected to make, and he's not making the catches right now at all. He doesn't look like he's the best athlete on the field. He goes 3 for 44 last week, but that could have been so much more. Obviously, he's dangerous there, but their rock in their offense, James Conner, goes down with the season-ending injury, which is really unfortunate for him. And he's a guy that their offense has relied on for many, many years. But this defense is good. I will say this defense is good. They played the 49ers very tough last week. I like what their defensive coordinator's doing. That's the strong point of this Arizona team right now. And when we get to the Seahawks end, I would wait until the injury report came out to record this show on Wednesday today. But they are going to have Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love back in that defensive backfield, which is huge. Anthony Bradford's questionable. Boye Mafe's questionable. And I believe Nicky Moore is doubtful. But that's two big things to me, because Julian Love having that steady presence at the back of the secondary, that's huge. And having Spoon back, just the explosiveness he brings, the secondary's been good with him out, to be honest, but just having his presence in a big divisional game. And this is a big divisional game. This is one that both teams will look back on at the end of the season if they're in a spot competing for the division, competing for the wild card berth. This is a huge game because both these teams are 0-1 in the division. Both these teams have lost to the 49ers. Both these teams arguably should have beat the 49ers. But they didn't. And for two teams that have playoff and division aspirations, putting yourself in an 0-2 divisional hole 4 weeks into the season is not going to cut it, quite frankly. It's not going to cut it at all. So this is a huge game that the Seahawks are going to with a lot of people starting to wake up. I've seen more people in the national media talking about the Seahawks, but no one's talking about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is the number 1 PFF graded quarterback in the entire league. Sam Darnold is. And I don't hear a word about him. I hear a lot about JSN. I hear a lot about, its defense starting to be good. Not a lot about Sam yet, but that's going to change. It's a big primetime game for him. This is a big spot for him to show. The last few times he's been on the national stage, it hasn't worked out for Sam, but I feel like this is a good spot for him. I'm going to check on the status of the Cardinals' injured cornerbacks, like Will Johnson specifically. But this is the way I'm expecting this game to play out. Is I think that I don't see a lot of explosion in the Cardinals offense. Obviously, they have Trey McBride, who Seahawks have notoriously struggled to cover tight ends. So I think even Ori being out is tough there, because from the limited time action we saw him in week 1, he was used on George Kittle to help try to stop the tight end barrage. And he goes out. Kittle had a great game until he ended up going out injured. But with him doubtful for this game again, I'm not quite sure what the plan is going to be there. And that's one of the big things I think I'm expecting to see from Mike McDonald. Another thing is this Cardinals run game. Last year, if you remember watching that first Seahawks Cardinals game especially, this was a Cardinals team that everyone said this is a hard-nosed running team. They're going to run the ball down the Seahawks' throats. And James Conner was eaten up. He had less than 2 yards per carry. I think it might have been even less than that, maybe 1. They had nothing for him. So with the team's only wide receiver real threat being Marvin Harrison Jr., who has not looked good this year, I have to feel good about the Seahawks' chances in this game. I don't feel like there's any really deep play threat unless there's a huge blown assignment, which I don't see how. That's the only big plays the Seahawks have given up is blown assignments and missed tackles. In week one, obviously the Reek, he's running with Ricky Pearsall. He stops running. Pearsall torches him deep. And then in week two, Jalen Warren catches a little ball in the flat and he breaks like 8 tackles and ends up getting tracked down at the 5-yard line and leads to an interception. But that this team just doesn't really give up big plays. And I don't see a big play threat, I don't see a threat on this Cardinals offense to threaten us deep. And quite frankly, Kyler Murray's a guy that struggled a lot in his career against the Seahawks. So if our defensive line can get after him early, make him uncomfortable, kind of like the Niners defense did. The Niners made Kyler uncomfortable. He played a decent game, but they struggled to push the ball down the field at times. And especially if we can take away that run game with Trey Benson, who he's a solid backup back, but there's not a lot of explosion there. He's more of he breaks some big plays, but he's more of a hard-nosed guy, kind of comparable to James Conner. I want to give a shout out to Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy has quietly been one of the best defensive tackles in football so far, quite honestly. And I don't think that can be debated. He has been what we've seen from Byron Murphy so far has been the Byron Murphy that a lot of people expected to see last year. The reason he was drafted it was 18 overall or 16 overall by the Seahawks last year was overshadowed a bit by guys like Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, but so far this year he's been fantastic. 12 total pressures on the year, 3 sacks coming from the pass rushing position. If we can get him and Leonard Williams, Derek Hall to get after Kyler Murray, I don't see a lot of ways for the Cardinals to score points this week. Stop that run game, and I don't see a lot of ways for the Cardinals to move the ball down the field. On the offensive end, just keep doing what we're doing from the last 2 weeks. Use the play action, get the ball to your tight ends, and I want to see him establish the run game a little bit. This is a pretty good Cardinals defense. I do have to say it. This is a Cardinals defense that's last week especially, the Niners in that same offensive scheme struggled to move the ball for a majority of the time. And this is a Seahawks offense that last week didn't have the most successful run game against the Saints defense. I want to see them establish that run and get the ball to Torrey Horton, get the ball to JSN. I trust Donald to deliver off of those play action scenarios and just stay in front of the sticks. Don't put yourself behind the sticks early and downs. No stupid penalties. I'm interested to see who starts at guard. If Bradford can't play, I'm honestly not sure who that would be. But I feel good, honestly. It feels weird. Everyone going into this game is on the Seahawks. But I feel like if the Seahawks play the style of football they've been playing the last 2 weeks, this is a game the Seahawks should win. I'm going to take the Seahawks. I think they'll win by a score. I think it's a majority a close game, and maybe towards the end of the game, they pull away and win by 7-10. But I think the Seahawks win this game, go to 1-1 in the division, 3-1 overall, and quite frankly, make a statement on national football, on national TV, which is a big thing for them. They want the national media to wake up for what's going on in Seattle. Up next, we got the Vikings at Steelers. We got week 2 of Carson Wentz in Minnesota. And this is a tough spot for the Steelers. This is a London game, flying overseas for 1 week. A Steelers offense that has definitely struggled. This is a Steelers offense that has struggled kind of this whole season, to be honest, bar week 1. Last week is a game that the Steelers definitely should have lost, in my opinion, to New England. If New England doesn't shoot themselves in the foot multiple times. And we know Brian Flores he's gonna dial up heat. He's been great at dialing up heat all season, especially in that Falcons game. He was all over Michael Penix last week against the Bengals. They were all over Jake Browning. They were able to eliminate Jamar and T from the game plan, force some big turnovers. And I see the same thing happening this week. I'm taking Minnesota in this game, quite frankly, just because Aaron Rodgers at this stage of his career is a bit of a statue in the pocket. He can move around a little bit, the arm talent's still there, but the elusiveness, the mobility, the ability to evade sacks, his playmaking ability is gone from what it used to be. So just the Brian Flores factor of being able to get after a quarterback that we know is pretty immobile, I don't see them having much success this week. They've also struggled to dial up big plays to guys like DK Metcalf down the field. And I don't think that's going to change against a really, really good Minnesota defense. Minnesota pressured the Bengals 28 times last week, sacked Browning 4 times. If they have that kind of pressure on Rodgers, I think it's going to be an ugly game for him. It's going to be an early game. Not going to be waking up for the first half. Probably the second half of the game, we'll start watching that. But on the offensive end for Minnesota, I was quite impressed with Carson Wentz last week. I thought, honestly, he operated the offense better than J.J. McCarthy. He got his guys the ball. He got Jefferson the ball. He got Hawkinson the ball. And I don't see why that can't continue this week, to be honest. The offense just looked the best it had all year, bar that fourth quarter against Chicago. So if they can, obviously Aaron Jones is out he went on the IR. I'm not sure if he's out for the year. I know it's an extended period of time at least, but Jordan Mason runs the ball last week 16 times for 116 yards. If they can keep that run game established, this is the Steelers defense that gave up some explosive runs to Kenneth Walker against the Seahawks 2 weeks ago. So if the Vikings can run the football, Wentz can just take care of the ball. Don't do a few years ago Carson Wentz things. Get the ball to Jettis, get the ball to TJ Hawkinson, and they got Jordan Addison coming back. It's another weapon for this Vikings offense. It's stacked with weapons, quite frankly. So just with the fact of that defense getting pressure on Rodgers and Minnesota's weapons on offense and Carson Wentz just taking care of the ball, playing smart football, I think this is a game that the Vikings win by 10 points. Next, we got the Commanders at the Falcons. The Falcons coming off probably the most embarrassing game of the year, and it's already pandemonium in Atlanta, and it's never a good sign when this happens in week 4. Offensive coordinator Zach Robinson is moving from the booth to the field, which, I mean, all right, you'd think that if you're, I don't know the full history on it, but he's probably called games from the booth his whole career. He's called games and been in the booth. So what is him moving to the field necessarily going to do? Is that going to help change his play calling, maybe to talk to the players more? I don't know. And then they fire their receiver coach, and they make, I believe, TJ Yates their receiver coach now. But what is firing your receiver coach going to change about the bad play calling and the inability to call downfield passes and complete downfield passes right now? It's not like you're firing your OC or your passing game. Like, how much, I understand, like, it's the receiver coach is an important thing, but what is the receiver coach doing that's going to, firing him is going to change that much drastically with the offense? It's just never a good sign. And this is a team that has all the talent on offense. So, I mean, they're trying to switch things, but what's moving Zach Robinson to the field going to do? I'm not a big fan of his play calling at all, kind of anywhere in the field. They're in pistol like every play for some reason, but it's just frustrating. I'm not sure what is it. Hopefully maybe it lights a fire under them. I think they know that they're going to, I think they're going to come out a little hotter this week. No, I mean, you put them an O for last week against the Panthers. Big game this week at home. I hope that the momentum shifts a little bit for that team this season. And on the Washington side, it doesn't seem like we're going to get Jaden Daniels for a second week. It seems like it's going to be Marcus Mariota. Daniels said he wants to play, but as of now, he'd have to play with the brace, and he said the decision's not fully up to him. So when you're saying that on a Wednesday of a week, that doesn't sound to me like we're going to see Jaden Daniels out there. This is a Washington team, though, that put up 41 points against the Raiders, and Marcus Mariota looked quite good, to be honest. He 86 graded on PFF. Left guard Chris Paul, 85 grade. Jeremy McNichols, one of the things I was a little confused about last week was the running back split. Do they just not? They don't like Bill over there in DC. Josh Connerly, the first round tackle out of Oregon, has continued to grade out poorly. That's 3 weeks in a row in the 50s. He went 53, 37, 52 last week against Vegas. That's not great to see. But with rookie O-linemen, it takes them a year or two to come along to really get in the player they're going to be. But it's not great. But from this Washington offense, Mariota doesn't really. He's one of the best backups in the league, like 100%, I think. And the outlook on him with the weapons he has around him, with Debo, Terry McLaurin, they got a solid run game. They've been able to run the ball to decent success so far through the season. It's not like when I hear Jaden Daniels is going to be out for the week, oh, Commanders they're cooked, they're gone. He put up 41 points against the Raiders, and he's a guy that can move a little. He's obviously not Jaden Daniels with his legs. He's not Marcus Mariota of old, but he can move. Like, doesn't have the breakaway speed. He can make stuff happen. He can move around the pocket, run for first downs. So, I mean, I love the Falcons, and I hope the Falcons succeed. But after what I saw last week, I just can't bring it in me to pick the Falcons to win this game. In the organizational changes that they're doing, it's just hard for me to have confidence in Atlanta to turn around in 1 week against a Commanders team that's pretty good, and they've been able to generate pressure. Von Miller, Bobby Wagner coming in on some blitzes. Bobby Wagner's continued to play well. But it starts with the Atlanta pass game. We know what they have in Bijan. We do. He's going to be an explosive runner. He's one of the best running backs in the league. He's going to run for chunk yards. But if Penix can't connect with these receivers and this receiving core, they're going to struggle to win games. There's no reason there's no reason this passing offense should struggle. I think it stems from the play calling. I think it stems from obvious passing situations, obvious running situations. I think it stems from bad formations, lack of play action. He can move. They leave him as a statue in the pocket. Get him out on the outside. Make it easy for him. I feel like that's the like words that I think a lot of teams should live by. Make it easy for your quarterback, and the deep plays will come. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to hit Darnell Mooney, Drake London down the field for big gains. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with the Commanders this week. I hope Atlanta turns it around, but I'm not seeing it right now. I'm gonna need to see them have success on offense before I can have faith in picking them later in games later in the season. Next game, we'll keep it short. Saints at Bills, 16-point favorites, the Buffalo Bills. It's got to be tough to be a Saints fan because not only are you a really, really bad football team, but you can't even do the little things right. If I was a Saints fan watching that Seahawks game, I think you knew if you did, it was very apparent from the start that you were outmatched and you didn't have the things to match up with this team. But I'm going to pull up the stats on the penalty yards. The amount of yards and free plays that you gave Seattle just has to be sickening, quite honestly. Just watching, there was a stretch of 2 or 3 plays in a row where it was just a penalty on the Saints. I mean, they had 11 flags for 77 yards, a lot of false starts, just bad situationally. Going into Buffalo, going to be another rowdy environment there. It's Spencer Rattler. He really isn't the problem. He still doesn't have a win as a starting quarterback, which really sucks, but he's been fine. It's just this is a bad team. Kellen Moore, I don't really know that he's the guy there, but you got to give some leeway to the guys taking on the worst roster in the league, in my opinion. But they have some weapons at receiver. They got Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Jawan Johnson's been one of the best receiving tight ends so far this year. Alvin Kamara. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to move the ball on the field, which is what they've shown for a majority of their first 2 games, besides the Seahawks, and the Seahawks shut them down. But I don't really see them having much success against the Bills team. This is going to be, I believe, another game similar to last week. I don't see any reason why the Bills shouldn't blow these guys out by 30. And that's all I got there. Up next, we got the Browns at the Lions. Talked about the Lions earlier in the episode, talking about that Monday Night Football game. And this is a Browns team coming off the shock win of the year. They hold the Packers to 10 points. Joe Flacco moves them down the field at the end of the game to win by 3. Walk-off field goal, 55-yarder. Quinshon Judkins, a little bit of a coming out party in the second game in the league. This changed. If you asked me this a week ago, I would have said the Lions are going to win by 40. But this is a Lions offense that has shown that they're arguably one of the best offenses in the league so far this season, in my opinion. And I don't know how anyone watches that Monday night game and doesn't think that. And this is a good test for them. Good Browns defense. Statistically, one of the best defenses in football right now, to be honest. But I think the Lions are too good on offense and good enough on they're good enough on defense the Browns aren't going to have much. They stuffed Derrick Henry last week, so I don't know how much success Quinshon Judkins is going to have on the ground. And this is a Lions offense that they can do everything. They can run the ball well, and then when it's not there, they can hit J-Mo deep. They can hit Amon-Ra. They have a reliable receiver target in Amon-Ra St. Brown that the Packers don't have right now. They don't have right now. So I think that's the difference in these two teams at this point in the season. So I think the Lions win this game by 14 to 17 points. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close for a majority of the game, but I just think that the firepower the Lions have on offense, it will start to show as the game goes on, and they win this game handedly at the end. Patriots at Panthers. Panthers coming off a big win. It was a big win for Carolina. A big win for the confidence of Bryce Young and Dave Canales, I think. And a Patriots team coming off a horrible loss. A loss where they had so many chances. The Pittsburgh gave them so many chances to win that game. And they just gave it away. Just dropping the ball inside the 5, turning the ball over inside the 5. Drake May throwing picks. Just making game-losing plays. If you can avoid game-losing plays in a close game like that, you'll win. But just those stupid little turnovers, and the Steelers don't make those mistakes, and they end up winning a game that they got thoroughly outplayed in. Ted McMillan showed up on the injury report this week. I believe it was a bit of a calf. I'm not sure. I know it was a muscle injury. That's not good because if he can't go, that gets rid of Bryce Young's favorite target thus far this season. Legette's questionable to hamstring. McMillan didn't practice. He didn't practice due to a calf injury, so he's questionable. And if he's not there, that significantly depletes the Carolina pass offense. He's a guy that Bryce has relied on heavily so far this season. They're going to have to run the ball with Chuba Hubbard. This is a Patriots defense that's susceptible to run. It's not the greatest Patriots defense. And a home game for the Panthers, who, if you're 0-3, the vibe in the stadium starts to get a little ugly. Is Bryce Young the guy? Is Canales the guy? Getting that win last week at home, I think they're going to look to stack some wins here, stack some momentum, and I think they're going to win this game. I'm picking the Panthers at home. On the Patriots side of the ball, I want to see them try to have a receiver step up and make an impact on the pass game. I want to see Stephon Diggs do something. He hasn't done anything all year except announce a child with Cardi B. I want to see Travion Henderson maybe finally get the ball in his hands and do something with it. He was one of the more explosive guys in the whole preseason across the NFL, and he hasn't done anything. They're still going to give him the ball. Ramondre, Antonio Gibson. That's frustrating to see if you're a Patriots fan. But yeah, with those things, I'm taking the Panthers this week. Up next, we got the Chargers and the Giants, a game that 2 days ago I'd have been like, gotta watch Russell Wilson play again. But they go to Dart. This is a move that says to me, Dable's like, I need to do something to save my job. And I think it's the right decision. I've said multiple times on this show, there's no reason to trot Russ out there if that's the rest you're getting. The rest you got in week 1 and in week 3. Week 2, we had that blip of a performance, but it's against a defense that for some reason didn't want to cover the deep ball. So I think it's the right move to go to Dart. You got to inject something. If you're a Giants fan watching Russell, I think that last drive is what really just killed him, throwing the ball out of the end zone 3 times when you get the ball down to the 5. Just uninspiring football, quite frankly. And they need something to inject some life into the fan base. Have the backfield Dart and Scattaboo. That's a fun thing to watch if you're a Giants fan. You need a reason to go to the game, and you need a reason to cheer for your football team. I think this gets it to them. And I think that this is a sneaky spot for the Giants. This is a Giants team that put up points in that game against Russ, and the defense really hasn't been that bad. They have a stellar front seven. You got Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, the defensive tackle. I'm blanking on his name right now, but Dexter Lawrence. Yes, Dexter Lawrence. This is a team that can get pressure on the quarterback and make things uncomfortable for them. And bar that Dallas game, and they give up 21 on the Commanders with Jaden Daniels and only 22 points to the Chiefs in a game that the Chiefs really struggled to move the ball down the field. It was an ugly Chiefs offense that we saw. So I think if Dart can get some juice, get the ball out to Malik Neighbors, get it to Wan'Dale Robinson, this can be a game where the Giants hang around. I picked against the Chargers 3 weeks in a row. I'm not going to do it again. I can't do it again as them being 7-point favorites on the road. But don't be surprised if this Giants team has a little juice, has a little life going into this game against the Bolts. And on the Bolts side, I'm expecting this stellar pass game to continue. But what I'm going to be looking for is how can the run game work? How can they get Marion Hampton involved early in this game so it's not all relying on Herbert's arm to get the ball to his 3 good receivers so far? How can they get the rookie involved? How can they make him look good? Najee Harris out for the year. How can they make Herbert comfortable, run the ball a little bit, and then let him do the things with his arm that he can do when he needs to, but don't make him have to do that. I'm taking the Chargers to win this game, though, on the road, but don't be surprised if the Rook keeps it close. Up next, Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This should be a fun one. This is always a fun matchup, and this is a Bucs team that, in a time when a lot of people haven't played the Eagles well, I feel like always plays the Eagles very, very well. They beat them last year early in the season. They beat them in the playoffs a few years ago. They always have it. And this is a Bucs team that's really, really banged up, though. This is a much different offense that you're going to be seeing. Mike Evans is going to be out. He's going to miss multiple weeks. Tristan Wirfs is questionable. Seems like Chris Godwin is going to be back this week, first time all year. But this is a Chris Godwin who, it's not like he's coming back to be like, you got to be a third wide receiver, like however you feel. Are you healthy? Give me 50% of the snaps. He's coming back and he's going to need to be the number 2 receiver across from Emeka Egbuka. And I don't know if he has that in him right now. I would like if he proved me wrong, but he's an older guy. He's coming off a major injury to his leg, and he's getting kind of tossed into the fire here. So it will be interesting to see what we get from him. On the Eagles side, this is a team that just keeps finding ways to win. 2 weeks in a row, gritty wins. A game last week that they definitely far and away should have lost. Quite frankly, they should have lost to the Rams, and they squeak it out. And that's just what good teams do. That's just what good teams do, to be honest. Nolan Smith Jr. got put on the injured reserve today. Off the tricep injury, I believe he tore his tricep. But just with the way these teams are matched up and the people that the Bucs are missing, I really like the Bucs. I'm really high on the Bucs, and I think Baker Mayfield gives them a chance to win every game. I wouldn't be surprised if this game comes down to the end. But I got to take the Eagles in this game. Just the reliability, and with the explosion that we saw from the Eagles offense in that second half last week, there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to see more of that this week. There's no reason that I don't think the pass game should not be ramped up more and more after having the success that they did have last week. So I'm taking the Eagles in that one. Next game, Titans at Texans. Quite frankly, this is do or die for Houston. This is do or die. I said last week was a must win. This is a must win. You're 0-3. Another divisional game. I believe you're 0-1 in the division right now. Yeah, because you lost to the Jaguars last week. You're hosting the Titans. If you lose this game, you're done. The season's over. And I'm picking them just because this is DeMeco Ryans. This is a defense that has had great success all year. This is DeMeco Ryans who's dialed up the defense all year against the rookie quarterback who had probably his worst showing last year. I thought in the last week, and I thought in the first 2 weeks, Cam Ward showed some promise. He was making good throws. Last week, looked a little more like a rookie, was a little more rattled. And I think that continues this week against a really good Houston Texans defense. I need to see some success from this offense, though. It just is the most frustrating thing. And I don't want to have to watch this game, but this is an offense this is the Titans defense that's given up 20 points to Denver, 33 to the Rams, and 41 to the Colts. There is no reason you shouldn't put up 20 points if you're Houston, at a minimum. At a minimum. Get in the end zone 3 times. They have not eclipsed 20 points all year. 9 against the Rams, 19 against the Bucs, 10 against the Jags. Absolutely unacceptable. There is no reason why you should be getting in the end zone at least 2 or 3 times in this game. I want Stroud to deliver and make some good throws. I want Nico Collins to step up. Say, hey, I lost you guys that game last week with that fumble. Feed me. I'm an alpha receiver. Give me the Texans in this game. Plain and simple. No reason to lose this. Up next, Colts at Rams. One of the most intriguing games of the week, I think, to me, because this is a real test for the Indianapolis Colts. 3-0, going on the road against LA. And this is a Colts offense that's just continued to look explosive week in and week out. 33 against Miami, 29 against Denver, 41 against the Titans. And it's just every week, it's like, are they legit? Are they really legit? And I have no reason to believe they're not, but this is definitely their biggest test. They faced a good Denver defense, but LA so far, I think, has been one of the best defenses in the league. That pass rush, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. There's no reason they're a pretty good defense. They're a little bit banged up on the defensive end, I believe, but Rob Havenstein's going to be questionable on the offensive end. The tackle Devontae Adams didn't practice due to a sore hamstring, so that's not good. But McVay said that he doesn't think he's going to miss Sunday's game. So that's good for the Rams offense, and it's a good test for them too. They're coming off a gut-wrenching loss to Philly where they definitely should have won it. They were the better team all day. And now how can they bounce back at home against an Indianapolis team that's been the surprise of the entire NFL so far this season? In my opinion, I'm interested to watch. I want to see how the Colts match up. This will be a true litmus test. Is this team legit? Because, I mean, if you're looking at their schedule, they beat Denver on a kick that obviously that flag was called, but they beat a bad Miami team in week 1, 33-8. They beat Denver when, quite frankly, they probably should have lost with the leverage penalty. And then they blow out a rookie quarterback by 21. I think this week is the litmus test. Even if they lose this game, by 7 points, 3 points, comes down to the last drive, can they hang with one of the elite teams in the NFC this week? That's what I'm looking forward to see. Can Daniel Jones hang against one of the best defenses in the NFL? Can they have success on the ground? Can they have success through the air to Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce? Blanking on the tight end's name, Tyler Warren, the tight end of Penn State. This should be a fun game. I'm picking the Rams just because I, quite frankly, don't know if I see it yet in the Colts. But I hope they prove me wrong. I hope they prove me wrong, knock down the Rams. And yeah, on to the next game, staying in the NFC West, Jags at 49ers. Potentially Mac Jones' revenge game against the Jaguars. I'm not sure Purdy's status. I think he practiced, but he also practiced last week and was questionable. So I'm not sure if we're going to see Brock Purdy out there for the third straight week, quite frankly. And this is a Jags team that just so frustrating. That Texans team was so hard to watch on both ends of the ball. And it's a team that has the weapons. They far and away have the weapons to be good on offense. And we saw it. We've seen it at times and in stretches against the Panthers in week 1. They put up 26 and ETN has a great day. And then against the Bengals, they put up 27 and falter in the red zone a few times, falter on some big possessions. And against the Texans, they slogged their way to a victory that they probably shouldn't have won. But going up against the Niners' first game without Joey Bosa, they're going to need those rookie defensive linemen that they drafted. I mean, without Nick Bosa, my bad. Those rookie defensive linemen that they drafted to step up. Mykel Williams, CJ West. And it's going to be interesting to see. Trevor Lawrence is the guy that had all the tools are there. All the tools are there. I want to see him get the ball to Travis. I want to see Brian Thomas have a Brian Thomas from last year game. But I just don't know. I just don't believe it yet. Really don't believe it yet. Mac Jones is a limited participant in practice with a knee injury. Ricky Pearsall missed practice with a knee injury. Brock Purdy was limited at practice too. Jawan Jennings did not practice on Wednesday. Like, this is just a banged up 49ers team. But they've been finding ways to win. You got to give them props. They have found ways to win every single game. All of them coming down to the last drive, but they keep finding ways to win. They got the Jags at home. As much as I want to pick the Jags, I just haven't seen enough from them, from that offense, to be able to put up points against a good Niners defense that played a great physical game against Arizona last week. And they still have Fred Warner. They still have Christian McCaffrey. Those two guys are healthy for the time being. So at this point, I can't pick against San Francisco as much as I would like to. I got to take the Niners to win at home this week. Up next, this is a huge game. Ravens at Chiefs. The loser of this game is going to be 1-3 going into week 5. If you said before the season started the loser of the Ravens-Chiefs game in week 4 would be going to 1-3, no one would have believed you. And that's a spot neither of these teams want to be, especially the Chiefs. If the Chiefs go to 1-3, with the quality of their division around them, they have a really, really tough climb towards the end of the season to make the playoffs, quite honestly. On the Ravens side, it would still be detrimental, but this is a team in the same division as the Browns, the same division as the Bengals, and the same division as the Steelers. And none of those three teams, especially the Bengals without Burrow, have honestly looked too high-powered or like teams that have the ability to make a deep run in the playoffs. So on the Chiefs end, this is a that's the game for both teams. But on the Chiefs end, I think this is more of a must-win than it is for the Ravens. And good for them, they are getting Xavier Worthy back. Every time I've talked about a Chiefs game this whole year, I've said this offense is going to look so much different with Xavier Worthy. They plan for him to be the deep play threat that they do need all year, all offseason, and they lost him on the third play of the season. He's going to be back. He was a full participant in practice today with that dislocated shoulder he suffered in week 1. And they need him to come in right away. Hopefully he's still up. Hopefully he's upwards of 80%. I'm not sure his shoulder's fully recovered from that, honestly. But if he's full participant in practice, he feels good enough to play. And they need him to step up. They desperately need someone that can stretch this defense. Because Kelsey at his old age, he can be a reliable underneath target. Hollywood Brown's old. He can catch a few balls during the game. Tyquan Thornton's been a good bright spot, but not a number 1 receiver on the team. They need Xavier Worthy to come in, be the number 1 receiver. I expect them to feature him a lot this week. I expect him to get a lot of targets, a lot of deep throws down the field. And I think this does open it up a little bit for Tyquan Thornton to be if Worthy does threaten the Ravens deep early in the game, that opens it up for Thornton underneath. Thornton going across the field when all that attention is on Worthy. So with Worthy playing, I am going to pick the Chiefs. I think that they have the better defense. This is a Ravens defense that's been quite bad, and the Chiefs have the Ravens number, quite honestly, in my opinion. Mahomes has the Ravens number, and him at the MVP level he's been playing so far, maybe not, the stats don't reflect it, but his quality of play, in my opinion, has been some of the best in the league. I think when he has a guy that he can chuck the ball to down the field, that can threaten the defense deep, It opens up so much for this Chiefs offense. So I'm excited for this game. Huge game for the Chiefs. I'm picking them. Up next, Bears at the Raiders. Bears are even money. So this is a pick 'em. Going to Las Vegas. Vegas has been a disaster, quite frankly, since that week 1 win against New England. And this is the Bears team that had finally had the offensive explosion that they've been waiting for 2 years, honestly. For 2 years, ever since the Caleb Williams experience started, they finally had that game where it's like, this is our franchise guy. Ben Johnson was dialing up. That flea flicker was beautiful. And there's no reason why I would pick the Raiders in this game. I'm taking the Bears. And this is a huge spot for the Bears. I think I talked about it a little bit on Monday's episode, but if they win this game, you're sitting at 2-2, and you got the Commanders, which is a winnable game, I think, and you got the Saints. You have a big chance to get above 500 and show everyone around the league that you guys have playoff aspirations. And this is a Raiders defense that has mightily struggled. He gave up 41 last week to Marcus Mariota. Gave up a lot of rushing yards in that game to not the best assortment of backs, if we're being honest. I mean, you got McNichols 4 for 78. Marcus Mariota ran 6 times for 40 yards. Chris Rodriguez 11 for 40. Bill 8 for 26. That's 32 rushes on 201 yards. Caleb can be a threat on the ground with his feet when he needs to, scrambling. And Rome is making big plays. They got Luther Burden involved last week a lot, which is great to see if you're a Bears fan. The rookie receiver out of Missouri. I think the Bears are going to throttle these guys. I have not seen anything from the Raiders offense that thinks that they're going to hang in this game, or from this defense that shows that they can stop an offense that when it's humming, like how the Bears were last week. I don't see any way that they stop that offense. And if it gets into a shootout, hold on into a shootout. Give me the Bears in that one. I think they win that one. I think it's a similar game to last week's game against the Cowboys, to be honest. Last game is Sunday Night Football. Packers at Cowboys, the Micah Parsons revenge game. Jerry is not showing a tribute video for Micah Parsons. He's probably going to get some boos there in Dallas. But this is a get-back game for the Packers. This is a major get-back game for the Packers, and this is going to be a tough spot for a Dallas offense that struggled against the Bears last week. They struggled to hang. It put up 14 points. CeeDee Lamb is out for a few weeks. So this is going to be the George Pickens show on offense, I guess. And that's not necessarily the greatest news that you want to hear. The George Pickens and Jake Ferguson show. Dak's going to have to rely on those two guys. He's going to have to get it to Turpin and Tolbert. In space, you got to hope. But this is a really good Packers defense. I mean, this Packers defense is arguably one of the best defenses in the league. Dak's going to be feeling pressure all day. He was sacked 2 times last week. I expect Parsons to be playing with some extra edge. Get a sack or 2 in there for sure. And I think this might be ugly, to be honest. If they can't establish the run game with Javonte Williams, which I don't know that I think they're going to be able to against a stout Packers defense, it's going to be a long day for Dak if he's throwing to Pickens, who's crashing out on the sideline every time. And quite frankly, he still hasn't made a big play. George Pickens hasn't down the field, and he's been a guy that has always made big plays all throughout his career. But I want to see the Packers offense get back into a little bit of a rhythm. This is a Cowboys defense that's very bad. Give up 37 to the Giants, 31 to the Bears. They should be able to establish that run game with Josh Jacobs, which powers the entire offense. If they can get that run game going, then they can run the play action to Kraft, hit Golden down the field. Golden had a better game last week. Hit Wicks, hit Dobbs. This is a get-right game for the Packers, and I think they win this game. I'm going to talk about the Monday night games on Monday's episode because there's a big slate of college football games that I do want to talk about. A lot of big games. So let's get into that, and we're going to start with with Ohio State at UW. All right, on to the college side of things. By far, the best slate of the entire year. Maybe what will be the best slate of the entire year. And just looking at these games, you got Oregon at Penn State, 6-3, the whiteout game. Alabama at Georgia, 17-5. You got LSU going to Ole Miss. That'll be a fun one. Number 4 versus number 13. But the one we're going to talk about first, the number 1 team in the country going to Montlake, Ohio State at Washington. And I can't wait. I'm going to be there. It's going to be 2 weeks in a row. I'm at the Husky game. And honestly, I can't. I'm so excited. I don't know the last time I was this excited to go to a sporting event, just based on the pure spectacle. I mean, I've been to a few big Husky games, but hosting the number 1 team in the nation it's rare. It's so rare. I can't remember the last time it happened. They haven't beat the number one team in the nation in 65 years. That's when the players used to wear leather helmets. But Ohio State is 7.5-point favorites. That line opened up at, I believe it was 12. 12. And it's just been going down and down and down. And it's a bit of a travesty that the Huskies aren't ranked. I saw a tweet, I believe, that said, if you're just going based on betting lines, number one overall team in the country going on the road to a team, a 7.5-point spread. When I saw it, was like a 7 to 10-point spread, I believe it said, is equivalent, is ranked evenly to something like a 15 to a 19th ranked team in the nation. And it's just pure East Coast bias. I mean, this team's 3-0, 7th in the Big Ten. They played Colorado State, UC Davis in the Apple Cup. The Apple Cup's probably the first game that anyone on the East Coast has watched because the first two games were at 8 o'clock at night. But they have arguably the best wide receiver, quarterback, and running back trio in the country. And Ohio State, this is Julian Sain's first true road game as a starting quarterback, and it's one of the hardest places to play in all of college football. But the fact that this has gone down to a 7.5-point line is people are all over the Huskies right now. They're all over them. It's weird. I don't know if it's Vegas bringing the line down because I see a lot of the money's coming in on Ohio State, especially as that line has started to get closer to a touchdown. But I'm so excited, and I think this game has the potential to be an all-timer. This is two offenses that can score, and I think that starts with one of the keys of the game for the Huskies is they just got to score points, man. This offense hasn't punted in 21 straight real drives. I believe they went 17 straight drives with a score. There was broken up in there with like a kneel down, I believe, or something like that. In 21 straight actual drives that ended, they have not punted. And they're going to have to score in this game. This is a game where the Huskies can't afford to start slow. If you're playing from behind in this game, you're going to lose all momentum from the crowd, and it could get ugly. But this offense it's how the team's powered. The offensive line has played really good. Quite honestly, John Mills, left guard freshman, has been one of the best freshmen in the entire country. He's been great. Graded out as a 71 overall through the whole season on PFF. Landon Hatchett, center, graded out as a 64. Carver Willis, left tackle, graded out as a 63 overall through the whole season. But they're going to have to score, man. They're going to have to. I hope they get the ball first and make Ohio State from behind. Make you be the aggressor all day. Go score. Then get a stop. You also have to, another big part of this game is you got to find a way to get a stop. I don't think you're going to win this game 55-50. You're going to get stopped. You're going to have to punt in this game. Bold prediction. This is a really good Ohio State defense. But you're going to have to force, we said it was Julian Saint's first true road game. Make him uncomfortable. Force an interception. Make a hit on the quarterback. Make him fumble. Get a ball batted in the air and make a turnover. Give yourself a short field in the other end. Those are the plays that are going to win this game. And Jed said that Takario Davis is going to be a game time decision. I think him playing is a major shift. If he plays, this is a cornerback duo that can match up with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate to some extent. Obviously, that's probably the best receiver duo in the country. But if you have both of your elite guys, there's one for each of them. And that's going to be big. If he can't play, then you're looking at either freshman Dylan Robinson or corner Leroy Bryant, who had a really rough day against Wazoo last week, quite honestly. And the Huskies need to get some pass rush. Zach Durfee, he tacked on a bunch of pressures last week that really didn't result in sacks. And this is the game you're going to need to get some rush on Sain. If Sain has all the time in the world back there, he's gonna be able to do what he wants. To be honest, he is. And yeah, you got to find a way to make some sort of negative play. You got to make him uncomfortable early, because if he gets comfortable early, he's gonna be like, all right, I'm fine, I can do this. If the crowd gets off to a rowdy start, you rattle them a little bit, force a few false starts, force a few delay games, and get in this dude's head. He's truly, I've probably never seen an environment like it playing the game of football. So you gotta implement that early and play from ahead. You can't be playing from behind. Another thing is you got to be able to run the ball a little bit, and you need someone else to step up behind Denzel. Omari Evans was first game last week, didn't do anything. He played 13 snaps, literally did nothing the entire game until that last touchdown, the deep 60-yarder where he scores. But this is Ohio State defense that is obviously very good. They shut down Texas, but this Washington offense is much better than the Texas offense. Demond is 5 times better than Arch Manning. They haven't seen someone like Demond ever in their life. But someone needs to step up behind Denzel. They're probably going to put corner Igbinosun, I believe his name's Desmond Igbinosun, on Denzel. And he's good, but he's a little grabby. He's a guy that has a lot of penalties in the last 2 years. I believe it's 20 I saw, with the 2 being declined when it comes to just holds, pass interferences. So you can throw it in his direction. He might make a play on Denzel, and you can force a flag when you need to. But you're going to need someone like Decker DeGraff to get involved in the air. Omari Evans, hopefully he's going to play a few more snaps, threaten them deep. Jonah Coleman in the passing game last week was the most effective game in a UW jersey in the passing game, received for over 100 yards. And guys like Desmond Roebuck are going to have to step up. You're going to need production outside of Denzel because you're facing the DC and Matt Patricia, who he knows how to shut down number 1 receivers. He knows how to shut down great quarterbacks, shut down great running backs. So you're going to have to go off your A game. And Demond's going to have to play like Demond. I don't think he's going to be rattled in this situation. He's going to be the best athlete on the field, in my opinion. He's faster than all the defensive linemen. But they got to keep him on his feet. He can't take hits early. He has to be able to create on long third downs, create on when he can. And he's going to take hits. Obviously, he's going to be running through the middle of the field. He's going to get tackled, but limit the unnecessary hits. The offensive line has to protect him in those blitz situations that Patricia's going to send at him. Matt Patricia's a fantastic defensive coordinator. They ate up Arch when they played them in week 1, but it's a different test. And honestly, I don't know. It's hard to give a prediction for this game because obviously there's an insane amount of bias coming from my point of view. I do think the Huskies can win this game. If Dekario Davis plays, my belief in them to win this game goes up a ton, quite honestly. Just having that other lockdown corner on the opposite side of Prysock. Alex McLaughlin's going to need to play a great game. They're going to need to stop the run. They're going to need to not let Ohio State have these prolonged drives that are just killers. They're going to have to get off the field on third down. That's a big thing. If you get Ohio State to a third down, a third and 5 or more especially, you got to get off the field because those third down conversions are just brutal. They're just momentum killers. They take the crowd out of the game. That's another big key to me in this one. So if I have to give a prediction, they can win. I'm not saying they can't. This is a game the Huskies 100% can win. They have to put their best game of the year on offense and their best game of the year on defense. You're playing the number 1 team at home, for God's sake. But you're a team that should be ranked in the top 20, maybe the top 15, just based on pure talent level. The defense is going to have to step up. They can't play how they did in the Apple Cup. I'm going to need to see something of Ryan Walters. Ryan Walters has been a little bit disappointing so far, honestly, with what we've seen from this defense. He's going to have to coach his best game. He's going to have to dial up some pressure on Sayin because they're not really getting home right now with just the D-line rushing. They're going to have to make things hard on them because if you just send 4 and 5, you're not nothing's going to you're not going to get any pressure for the most part. They're going to have to bring some DBs, bring some safeties, bring some linebackers. I'm interested to see who's going to start at linebacker with Buddha out. There's a lot of questions, a few shaky injury questions just for the UW defense, but if Dekario plays, I think they have a real shot to win this game no matter what. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be two high-powered offenses, and I can't wait. I'm not going to give a prediction, but I think the Huskies can win this football game. And if they do, it's going to be an all-timer. All right, other 3 big games of the week. We got LSU, Ole Miss, Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia. I'm going to start with LSU, Ole Miss. This, arguably, I think I'm most interested in this game, to be honest. And it's especially in the Ole Miss front because we got the news today. Trinidad Chambliss is going to start, but I think that may be a good thing. Austin Simmons came into the year as the starter for Ole Miss, and quite frankly, he came in the year with a lot of promise because he looked great last year at the times when he had to play for Ole Miss, especially that Georgia game when he came in and finished the game when Dart goes down with an injury. But he's been bad. Simmons wasn't great this year. He was very underwhelming so far, and Chambliss transfer came over from, I don't know what school it was. It was Ferris State. And he's come in and looked much better, quite honestly, than Simmons has, and the offense has looked better. So honestly, when I was previewing this game early in the week and I was looking at it, it was looking like Simmons was going to play. And when I got the news that Chambliss was going to play, it made me a little bit more intrigued because I think he might give them a better chance to win this game than Austin Simmons at this point. And quite honestly, I think if he wins this game, he's the starter for the rest of the year. If you knock off LSU at home, there's no reason you pull that guy out of the lineup. I mean, Kiffin said that Simmons is their starter when he's healthy, but he's not going to say that before Chambliss is going to start the game and say he's not the starter, and then they lose, and then it's like, oh, it's just an ugly situation. He's a smart guy. And this is an LSU offense that underwhelmed against Florida. Can they bounce back against Ole Miss this week? I'm not sure. I'm going to see more from Garrett Nussmeier. He came in week 1. I was like, this guy's my QB1. This hasn't been peak Garrett Nussmeier since then, quite honestly. But I'm really excited to watch this game. So at the same time as the Husky game, so I'll probably have to catch up on it later. But I think I'd have to pick Ole Miss if I had to pick anyone in this game. I trust Chambliss at home. I trust Lane in a big game. And I think them being at home is a big thing. Can they put up points on this LSU defense? It's going to be interesting. Up next, Oregon at Penn State, the whiteout game, 6 versus number 3. And as much as it hurts me to say it, I think that Oregon's going to win this football game. I think Oregon has looked, quite honestly, like one of the most dominant teams in the nation. None of their games have quite been close at all. And Penn State, it's hard to tell because they haven't played anyone. Nevada, FIU, and Villanova, all at home. Not a single tough test in there. So having this early season whiteout game against arguably, I mean, they play Ohio State later. This is the second best team you're going to face all year. It's tough. It's very tough, honestly. Oregon, at least they played Northwestern. That's a conference game. They played Oregon State. That's a rivalry game. Those are 2 games that, especially that Oregon State game, I mean, they knew they were going to wax some much better team, but you get a little juice out of that. And Penn State hasn't felt that yet this season. Drew Aller hasn't played a real tough defense yet this season. So that's why, honestly, like if I had to pick a team, I honestly think Oregon wins this game just because I don't know I don't know. I'm not a huge Drew Aller guy. He's struggled at the end of last season. That's sustained in my head until he can get it out of there. And I think he'll struggle against this Oregon defense, quite honestly. And Dante Moore's looked pretty good. He has. And with the receiving core they have and the tight end, I just think that this is an Oregon game to win, if we're being honest. If I had to pick a team, I'd pick Oregon. It's going to be a fun game. It's at 4:30. We'll have eyes on that, but the environment's going to be pretty crazy. I don't know I think this might be the highest ranked whiteout game they've ever had. I think I saw something that might be wrong, but that's going to be a crazy game to watch. Up next, Alabama at Georgia. This is a game for Kalen DeBoer to turn all the negativity that was coming towards him after that week 1 loss, to turn it away. And, reflecting on that loss, it was an embarrassing loss. It definitely was. But they lost to a Florida State team that looks like it might be one of the top 15 best teams in the country. It definitely has. And the way they lost was really ugly, but they come back to beat UL Monroe. Yes, they won by 73, and then they dominate Wisconsin, which, I mean, Wisconsin's a Big Ten team. Wisconsin's not very good, but it's a dominating win. And now DeBoer has a 4-game gauntlet stretch at Georgia, home versus Vanderbilt, at Missouri, and home versus Tennessee, where he can kind of turn the tide, win some big games, dude. They beat Georgia last year in that thriller. I'm really interested to see how Ty Simpson looks this week, how they get Ryan Williams involved this week, Jeremy Bernard, and how this defense looks against Gunnar Stockton. Because the defense was the main thing that was, I think, the most disappointing thing against Florida State. These guys were getting mauled. These linebackers were getting pushed around. And that's just not the Alabama standard. So how is Gunnar Stockton? Gunnar Stockton has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I've vocalized that I'm not the biggest Gunnar Stockton guy, but he's been impressive. And how can this Alabama defense stop Nate Frazier, stop Gunnar Stockton, stop Zach Branch? It's going to be the biggest story of the game to me, because if they can push these guys around kind of like Florida State and run the ball at will, it's going to be a long day for Alabama. They're going to have to get some stops. Ty Simpson's going to have to overcome some stuff. This Georgia defense, Kirby's going to throw it at him. It's a road game. It's going to be more hostile than Florida State was. Is Ryan Williams going to show up? Is he going to give you a 100-yard performance? Lots of questions for Alabama, and DeBoer has a chance after insane disappointment to start the season. He has a chance to turn the tide back in his favor these next few weeks. And so will he take it? If he has a rough next 4 weeks and goes 1-3, 2-2, even maybe, he might get kicked out the door before the season ends. That might be completely wrong, but the pressure's on. The pressure's on for Kalen. And that's all I got, man. Enjoy the weekend. We got the Ryder Cup coming up on Friday to Sunday for you golf fans. Insane slate of football on Saturday. Fun slate on Sunday. Seahawks starting it all off tonight when this is being posted. It should just be a great weekend, man. Everyone should enjoy it. And thank you for listening to the show. I appreciate it. Share it with a friend if you enjoy. Give it a download. And I'll see you guys on Monday to talk about it all.